I'm a fat-faced dipshit. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm a fat-faced dipshit. I'm a fat-faced dipshit. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm a fat-faced dipshit.
All right, hello, and welcome everybody to a very special episode of Let's Talk Wrestling. Today we're going to be discussing the infamous Plane Ride from Hell, which aired last week on Vice TV. And so that really had some implications to it. We're going to be really diving into it, looking at some of the different point of views going on with that story, as well as the impact that it actually has today. Even though that Plane Ride from Hell occurred a long time ago, it still has a lot of impacts today. And so we'll be discussing some of that too, how some of those consequences are still being felt in the world, in the professional world today. And my name is Daniel. I am the professor, Daniel Diaz. I like a lot about wrestling. I know a lot about wrestling, so I like to consider myself a little bit of a professor. I kind of stole it from the Professor Mike Tenay from WCW. I don't know if you've ever watched WCW before, but Mike Tenay used to be called the Professor, and I always used to be like, the Professor of Wrestling. That's freaking, even though it's not real, but it's cool to me. So it's real to me. And I'm joined by my co-host from Let's Talk Wrestling. We've got Sharonica. Sharonica, I don't know if you want to take a second just to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Sharonica. I am a lover of AEW. I went to a lot, like I said before on our first podcast, we went to a lot of the Daily's Place and gave them all the support I can, and I still support them to this day. And I'm ready to dive into this about the Plane Ride from Hell, because as a woman's point of view, I hope that I help a lot of the women that are listening to us today, because there was a lot of things that were said on this show that was just mind-blowing. Go ahead. Ready whenever y'all
are. That is true. And on today's special episode of Let's Talk Wrestling, we also have John Finch. He's our producer with Outfox Studio, Let's Talk Wrestling. And he's amazing. He's done a great job with helping us get the show together and release this. And we also have Joseph Thompson, who's the executive director of the Pine Skull, and he's joining us here too. We're glad that you're able to join us as well, Joe.
Oh man, thanks. It's nice to be here. Yeah, as you said, Pine Skull Project. You find it audio podcasts everywhere. I'm excited to be here because I like wrestling. I was watching it from WCW times. I caught it briefly to the WWE times current, but I lost track of it over the span of past 5-6 years, so it's been a lot of catching up over the past week, just preparing.
So you're one of those fans that wrestling is kind of drawing back because of AEW.
Yeah, I mean, it's being brought back to the way it used to be, you know what I mean? Back in the old days, it was more about the actual competition. It was more about to see how you did in a ring versus another dude. Wrestling skills, and then just theatrics took over the past decade, especially when WWE took over, and then into the more progressive, current times. So I think it kind of lost sight of how it was years ago.
Oh, we're glad that you're back in the fold. We're glad that you're with our family, or Let's Talk family, of course. And we're grateful to have John and Joe and Sharonica. Yes, go ahead. Sorry, Sharonica.
It's a great time to be a wrestling fan.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, I've recently just
sword.
become a new wrestling fan again. I loved it when the Attitude Era. I absolutely loved the Attitude Era, and then they started with the Get the F Out, and then I wanted to get the F out and not bother with it.
Yeah.
So, but in all fairness, it was AEW that's brought me back. I do miss some things about the Attitude Era, which I wish AEW did, which is the promos that they used to do before the matches. They made them so dramatic, and they told the whole story of everything what was going on, and you want to then watch this match, even if you haven't seen any of the episodes, the Raw or anything else before it, because I'm British, we get to watch bugger all here. So, any time that I got to watch wrestling back then, the Attitude Era, was if and when they ever came out in Woolworths as a DVD or a video. So, yeah, I've come back to wrestling. I do wish that they would just pinch a little bit more from the Attitude Era. You know what I mean? It's
I
just
think the British Bulldog was his favorite wrestler, hands down, low key, like way back when.
see, it was Mick Foley. It was watching Mick Foley's match with Triple H at Royal Rumble for whatever reason. Channel 4, we've got Channel 1, BBC 1, BBC 2, and all that. We've got Channel 4 here, and they played it live at sort of three in the morning, and I was working nights at the time, so I thought, oh bugger it, there's nothing else on, and it completely blew my mind, because the last time I'd really watched it from then was WrestleMania 6 with Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior.
Wow.
So you go from that to watching this bloke with barbed wire and all sorts of things and thumbtacks. Love the thumbtacks. Right. Okay. So I think we should sort of get straight into this now. I would first like to start with Van Dam. I'd like to start with something that he stated it in the Dark Side of the Ring that really disturbed me the most. And no one's really talking about it, and that's what's surprising me as well. About 14 minutes, 35 seconds into the program, Van Dam states, and I'll use his own words, local girls were put out so the boys could have their way with them while they were out. Van Dam said this while he was talking about the wrestlers H-bombing their marks or targets. To me, drugging women so they pass out so you can have their way with them is date rape.
Yep.
It's plain and simple. It is rape. So
Yes.
no matter how you look at it, what profession you're in, or even how long ago it was, it's still rape. And if Van Dam didn't take part in these rapes, he sure as hell witnessed them. And he's got
never
knowledge
said
about
nothing
them.
about it.
Say again, sorry.
I said, and he never said nothing about it as it was happening.
No, exactly. That's the point I was going to say. He's given no reports to the police. He's never mentioned it before. It makes you think actually how many victims there actually are out there, and how many of them actually even know that they've been drugged and raped by these wrestlers.
I feel like now that this is out, and now that it's being talked about, that this will blow up, and I look for it to be thousands, and it sickens me to say it, but maybe into the hundreds of thousands. You never really know for as long as it's been going on.
Definitely. And with them being drugged, you find a lot of them don't even know that they've been raped or drugged. They just wake up the next day, you know what I mean? And these wrestlers shouldn't be allowed to get away with these serious crimes. No matter how long ago it was, rape is rape. And the victims deserve justice. So I think it's about time the police started investigating this and having a talk with Rob Van Dam. I was listening to Jim Cornette's podcast the other day, and he said on his podcast that wrestlers didn't need to put women out back then because there was always women hanging around wanting to sleep with them. Well, I'm sorry, Cornette, with that comment, you should take your tennis racket, shine it up really nice, turn that some bitch sideways and shove it straight up your ass, right? Because I'm telling you now, most rapists, if you look into their cases, most of them have wives or girlfriends and even families. So they're not going out raping because they're Billy No mates and they can't get a girlfriend. They're doing it because of the power it gives them, the control they have over their victim. So, Cornette, you can, like I say, take that tennis racket and shove it where the sun don't shine with that comment. Before I leave it open to anything that you'd like to say, because basically I'm accusing Van Dam of willingly and knowing about rapes and not reporting them. I am more than happy to say that from what he said with his own words. So I'd just like to say the most important aspect of rape is consent. Just because a person doesn't say no doesn't mean they consent. They could be frozen in fear or even incapacitated with alcohol and drugs, which is exactly what these wrestlers did. At the end of the day, it's rape. Police need to start getting involved with this one, I personally believe, because there's going to be so many victims out there, and some won't even know that they're victims. Anyone got any comments about what I've brought up in the dark side of the ring?
When, from a woman's point of view, when Rob
Yeah.
Van Dam said that, I feel just like you, if we're given the chance to say no, then that's, they should, no means no, period. But if you're drinking and having a good time with these wrestlers because you are kind of a mark that they want to call you, okay? So you're feeling good because of the fact that they're giving you the attention, which is okay, because I've been in, I love it when we've met with the wrestlers and do the meet and greets and they take time to talk to me, but they're not H-bombing me and they're not taking advantage of me, So these women were fans talking to these wrestlers and hanging out with these wrestlers, and then they just take advantage of them. And that's just not right. No matter if this happened, the plane ride from hell happened in 2002. It doesn't matter that if it happened in 1970, if people were H-bombing back then, even the wrestlers were doing it in the 80s, in the 90s, it's still not right.
Yeah, most definitely. Anything to say, Joe?
No, I mean, I completely agree. I feel like knowledge like that, you have to at least stand up and say something, whether, it creates a ripple in a pond or whether it creates a tsunami. You're either going to shake the foundation a little bit or you're going to flood that bitch. So he knows something. Worst case is he's going to get a word out. Everybody's going to start coming back up. Ma'am?
And also for him to laugh about it, like he
Yeah.
was laughing in the dark side of the ring, is like a slap in the face to every woman on this planet.
It's gobsmacking how normal they think all this is. They're just talking about it as if it's just an everyday thing, as if they've just, talking about having cornflakes in the morning. It's gobsmacking, but I'm really surprised that nobody picked up on his comment or even speaking about his comment where he's literally said he's seen wrestlers H-bomb women so they can have their way with them. He's talking about rape there. Why aren't people jumping on him?
And I think what it is ultimately is it's kind of like the culture, So wrestling is very it's hand in hand with like the sports culture. And we know basketball, football, all these stars always have issues with people being raped and date rape and drugs and stuff like that. Uh, I don't know how it is over there in the UK, but I know here in the US they've taken it seriously. So I think a lot of that stuff has gotten better, but because wrestling is not considered a professional sport, it's kind of like gotten away with things that sports is not able to do. So it's a really great area between entertainment and sports, and it's a culture thing ultimately within the sports industry that I'm hoping is changing. And I think that's why Van Damme actually feels comfortable now. If he would have had this interview maybe 10 years ago, he wouldn't have said anything that he just said. I think it's because now it's a different world. We have the Me Too movement that just came up. We have so many things now. It's a different world where he feels more comfortable probably to talk about it now. Not that it's right that he took so long, but maybe he feels comfortable. I'm just trying to understand the man and where he's coming from. Um, it's not right. It wasn't right, but maybe feels more comfortable in today's world actually speaking out about it. And maybe other wrestlers will probably be more comfortable speaking out about it now as well. But it really comes from a culture, it really comes from the wrestling culture. And I think the big paradigm shift is with AEW, because if AEW wasn't around, none of this stuff would be out. I can almost guarantee you the Dark Side of the Ring wouldn't even be a TV show. The only reason why it got picked up is because AEW came into play and started to change the business, which got more people listening, which got more people watching, which brought the stories back to today. So that's really why it made such a difference. If it wasn't for AEW, this wouldn't be a conversation right now, unfortunately.
See, I was watching the Dark Side of the Ring before I'd even heard about AEW, so I didn't know that there was a connection between the two.
Oh yeah, AEW was around way before the Dark Side of the Ring was.
I've only recently found out it was actually Chris Jericho that narrates it, and I think he's a producer. Is he a producer of it, or something to do with it, apart from being a narrator?
I'm not sure if he's a producer, but he is the narrator. And he's been the narrator for all 3 seasons, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of them, Mick Foley, did.
Oh, okay.
Series 2. I can't remember. Well, anyway, it's irrelevant. Right, Sharonica, so would you like to tell us about Ric Flair, unless there's any other comments or questions about Van Damme?
I do have a question. So do you all think that Rob Van Dam's career is pretty much done?
Well,
Because
is he in, which wrestling is he in now?
He's not signed to anyone,
not.
He's
right?
not signed to any. I don't think he will get signed, and I don't think he should be. Personally, that's my personal opinion.
Personally,
After what I've learned about him, no, sorry, he shouldn't be
I
signed
think
to
last
anyone.
time he wrestled and like spoke his retirement, I think that was the time that he hasn't stepped back into a ring since.
I also think that he should have his Hall of Fame stripped from him as well.
mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one. You know, the whole Hall of Fame thing. But they did it to Hogan. They took Hulk
Yep.
Hogan's Hall of Fame
Yeah.
ring away, and then he did his big apology tour. And I'm a reformed racist kind of thing. And then they gave him his Hall of Fame back. So does it really matter when they're just gonna give it back anyway?
Well, if they do give it back, yeah, it's absolutely pointless. It seems to be pointless taking it away from him if they're just going to hand it back to him if he just apologizes. Well, I'm sorry, it's a bit late for that. How many victims have been left in the wake of all this? And he has said nothing over what, 20, 30 years?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
And the thing to note is that obviously he's not the only one. You know,
Oh, definitely. He's definitely, they all know something, there just needs to be one big massive investigation into this. They look into rapes that happened 30 years ago, so why can't they look into this? This is a mass sort of thing, isn't it? It's a group of people going out there, whether they're wrestlers or not, doesn't matter. They're a group of people going out there and preying on vulnerable women and drugging them and raping them.
Yep.
It actually gets worse than that because I know that there's kids involved, young girls, young boys, around the ring rats and stuff like that. I mean, there's so much stuff with the WWE. It's not even funny. I mean, the Dark Side of the Ring hasn't even covered half of the dirt that's under the WWE
Didn't
rug.
Patterson have something to do with kids?
Yeah, Patterson. I don't know about
Patterson, yeah.
Yes, it was child pornography.
Mm-hmm. See, and that's
It's
crazy.
just,
And
it's
I think
unbelievable. And these people that you idolize and you've idolized for years. I think the only one that isn't a piece of shit that I've come across is my favorite, Mick Foley. He seems to be the most loving family guy that just loves to dress up as Christmas Santa Claus for every day. You know what I mean? He just loves it. So, I love Mick Foley. So yeah, Sharonica, how would you like to go on about Ric Flair? Unless there's anything else.
Yeah. Me as a child growing up, I loved Ric Flair, the Four Horsemen, wooing, But with this show and the way everybody just laughed it off, like, oh, it's just Rick. And poor JR for having to put up with all these kids. I mean, like they even said, it's like a bunch of high schoolers, and somebody said, no, it's like being in 5th grade, So there was like a plane full of kids, and no matter if he's a made man, that doesn't give him an excuse to he cornered the flight attendant, supposedly cornered the flight attendant in the galley. The galley is like the kitchen area on the plane. He was in his purple robe dancing down the aisle, and he cornered her in the back part of the plane by the galley. And supposedly, she says that he opened his robe and made her touch his penis. And he was doing the helicopter spin and stuff. And since this has all come out, he has admitted to the helicopter thing, like it was juvenile, but that was a thing. But then his statement, he says every person he's worked with told him not to post a response to this. How could he not post a response to this? And then he says that he gave ESPN the everything in his life about his taxes, his divorces, his adultery, Reed passing, which is his son, his drinking and everything. And then the guy that did the ESPN interview said also that he never heard that Rick forced someone to touch his genitals. Everything with Rick that was construed as negative, he tried to address in the 30 for 30. His drinking, his philandering, his adultery, his money problems, there's quite a bit. But he never, at least to the people he spoke to, he never heard that he forced himself on somebody. Number one, in this Dark Side of the Ring, Van Dam says he's seen Rick over there with the flight attendant in the galley. What was he doing So that makes you think, because she's telling her story on Dark Side of the Ring and how it happened. And then they cut to Van Dam, and Van Dam says, yeah, he's seen Flair over there in the galley with the flight attendant and his robe open. Why would he be standing naked in front of a woman? Why is that okay? That is not okay. He is not her husband. He was not her boyfriend. He was not her significant other. He was not her partner. There was no reason for him to be standing in his robe naked in front of another woman. Poor flight attendant was just trying to do her job. She states that on Dark Side of the Ring. They were hired to pour drinks, fix food, and take care of all these guys. So she was trying to do her job. And that was simply her job, to pour drinks and do what they asked of her, not for them to take advantage of her in that situation. And then Rick goes on to say in his Twitter that he allowed his personal life, the life of his wife and kids, to be turned upside down for one reason, whether good or bad, even the really bad, the truth has to matter, even in wrestling, because we know they have the kayfabe and all that with wrestling. So he says right there, whether it's good or bad, the truth needs to be known. Not once has Rick come out since this interview, since the Dark Side of the Ring come out, has he apologized? Has he said the words, I'm sorry? Not once has he said the words, I will try to reach out to anybody and make this better. We do know toward the end of the Dark Side of the Ring, they said that there was a lawsuit against Rick, and she settled. Okay, she says in her own words in the Dark Side of the Ring episode that her husband was all for the settlement. She didn't know if it was because of for their privacy or to protect their daughter, but she took the settlement. And then there was another flight attendant in with that settlement also, or with that lawsuit, and they just both settled. They didn't keep fighting this and go to court and trials or anything like that. I don't know why. I wish they would have. But now, I don't know if there's a statute of limitations on this, because like I said, this plane ride from hell was in 2002. And the fact that they signed paperwork and settled, it doesn't show her guilt. I don't feel like it shows that just because she settled, everybody wants to say she lied. We wasn't there on that plane. We don't know. The Undertaker was there. Brock Lesnar was there. Rob Van Dam was there. Jonathan Coachman says he was there. JR was there. And like JR said, everything that was brought to him was addressed. Because at the end of the episode, he's talking about how he had to find people and fire people, you know? So if it was brought to JR's attention, it was addressed, obviously. This was never brought to, it doesn't seem like this was brought to JR's attention on the plane or anything. It was after the fact when the settlement came up, or the court case came up. And then Rick got his lawyers to pay the lady off, I feel like, you know? And
Rick has been accused of it before, not just these two times. There is a time before that, and it was settled in a civil court. I just want to point out that only about 15% of cases of sexual assaults are reported. That's a very small, minimal amount, and that's only because 5.7% of reported cases end in a conviction. You got more chance of getting justice going through a civil court than, unfortunately, you have going through a law court.
I just don't think it's right. I mean, like I said, there's so much in this episode. I've watched it 4 times, and I've then watched it one more time, so 5 times total, just to make sure I was hearing it all and catching every, not kind of hanging on to every word, hoping that somebody said something different, hoping and praying that I just took that the wrong way, or I heard that the wrong way. And I've heard it 5 times now, and I haven't found anything promising out of it,
See, for Rick, there's 2 witnesses to it, isn't there? You've got Rob Van Dam, who's now claiming that he didn't say it. He tweeted.
I can paraphrase it because I think I vaguely remember it. I think he said something around the lines of he didn't see Rick actually physically grab her hands and put it on his genitals. All he saw was maybe like she was trying to get by so she can leave, and he was blocking her. So it was like body bumping into each other because it's such a tight space in the back. It was more of like they were bumping into each other as she was trying to get out, and not that her hands were forced to go down into his genitals. But on the show, I think he said he saw it. So
Right.
Yeah, on the show he said he saw it, but even if now he wants to say that she was just bumping into him, she was trying to get away from a naked man that was not her husband, was not her boyfriend, or was not her partner. Why,
His exact words were, I remember him crowding the flight attendant in the alleyway back there by the bathroom where it's all skinny, where you can't fit 2 people through there. And then he goes on to say, I remember he's like crowding her, trying to make her touch him. So he's already saying Ric Flair was trying to force this flight attendant to touch him. That's what he said there. That's his own words. That's his exact words. I can't say it like him. I've got too much of a Welsh accent to give it any justice. But yeah, that's his exact words, and you can go and check that out. That's at running time 26 minutes 19 seconds. Because he also tried to say it was the editing that made him sound like that, or made it sound like that. Well, I'm an editor. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. As we're doing this interview now, say if I tried to cut a bit of the conversation out and splice 2 bits together, because when you're talking, you're all making movements, whether it's head, hand, whatever. It is impossible to get the exact position again to line those 2 up. And if you watch the footage, it's 1 shot. So if they had spliced bits out to make it sound like that, you would see the jump, sort of like a glitch.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be very, very noticeable. So for him to turn around and say it's the editing is bollocks.
Yep, I agree.
I mean, this is horrible to say, but at the same time, I mean, any excuse is better than none, I suppose, even if it is a total crock.
I personally think he's just trying to cover himself now. But with Van Damme, they need to look at what he said at the beginning of that program at 14 minutes, where he was talking about date rape. That to me is important. Unfortunately, the sexual assault was sorted in court. In civil court. As far as I know, he can no longer be taken back to court for that particular case. So we all know that Ric's full of shit. We know that Van Damme's full of shit, and Tommy Dreamer is just a bit of a tit, I'm afraid. So, right. Anything else to say about Ric Flair?
I'm really.
I hope and pray, because I love AEW so much. We know that Andrade is with Charlotte, and Andrade knocked out Chavo Guerrero, and I think they were setting up to make Rick come into AEW to be his manager. And because Rick was at the All Out pay-per-view, and he was at the Dynamite and the Rampage, and I think they were setting up for that. But because I love AEW so much, I really, really hope I never see his face in AEW as a paid employee of AEW. He can be backstage. He can come and visit Andrade. He can, that's kind of family, whatever. But I hope they never put him on their TV show, Dynamite, Rampage, or any of the pay-per-views, because AEW doesn't need that black cloud hanging over them. AEW went up and up and up and up. And then I feel like if they brought Rick now, and I mean, AEW has a whole AEW Heels, which is just for us women. And that would be just a big slap in the face if they give him a job.
Definitely. I believe that Vince McMahon has made his daughter drop the surname while she's in WWE. I don't know if that's correct or not. It's just something I've heard.
Well, I heard that too, but on Monday Night Raw, they kept calling her Charlotte Flair too. So
right.
I don't know for sure, but this happened, that the Dark Side of the Ring was last week, and Monday night when Charlotte come out, the announcers called her Charlotte Flair. The Titantron said Charlotte Flair. So I don't know how much truth is to that either, but I would be ashamed of my dad if he was being talked about like that and he done something like that. No matter how much money he's got to throw around to these women and do whatever and pay them off, I would still be very ashamed of my dad.
See, that's the thing that we don't get in Britain is the perpetrator doesn't get the opportunity to pay off the victim before they get to court. Once the police have got all the evidence and everything, the victim is basically becomes a witness. That's it then. Everything's done through the police, and you can't take these people to court until they're actually found guilty. And it seems to be the complete reverse for America. It seems to be, before you go to court, you can pay off your victim.
Yeah, hush money.
Hush money, exactly. So to me, all that is actually quite crazy. You just let the law sort you out.
I mean, it's kind of like the mob of old, don't you think? You pay off somebody, they go whack the witness, and then, I mean, that's all she wrote. But, I mean, it's a scary thing when it's been dug so deep into a company for so long, and now people are starting to open up about it. I mean, anything can happen, especially in an industry like that.
Well, by the sounds of it, if anything ever happened that, somebody shouldn't see, that they're always told to not sell it. So they're already getting brainwashed into, you shouldn't see that, so don't say anything.
That seems to be the trend in WWE, or on that plane anyway. Terry Runnels was told, don't sell it.
Apparently, that was the first thing that Jim Cornette was told when he joined the WWF. If anything happens, don't sell it.
It's hard to sell something and, tell somebody not to sell something when everything sells. You know what I mean? No matter how bogus it sounds, everything sells. So therefore, nothing is off limits. And it's sad, but I think that's how a corporation, especially that big, kind of levels its backbone, if you will.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I think it comes at a really, it's like almost was it perfect timing? Because Ric Flair was just coming back almost in a way. You know, he was in NWA, being seen, you know, getting all the adulation. He had those commercials coming out, you know, and then this. So it seems like it's disappointing for me because I was really looking forward to actually seeing Ric Flair, more of Ric Flair, hearing more of Ric Flair, and now I don't want to see him at all. So
Yeah, see,
it's a
I've never been a Ric Flair fan, you know what I mean? And the last thing I want to see is a leather couch swinging his dick around, you know what I mean? So that's just put me off him altogether.
and
It
and
makes-
and it makes me
that might
question,
be the only way.
was he the one on the train? That picture of Ric Flair on the train giving oral sex to that lady, I think it was him. You try to say it wasn't him, but I don't believe you no more, Rick. I'm sorry.
Every
That's
day
the
is
he's
helicopter
lying.
day.
Say
I
that.
Every
hope
day,
that was his wife.
every day is helicopter day without Cialis. Remember that.
Every day is helicopter day.
Well, if
Without
that was him, if that was him on the train, I really hope that was his wife because he's supposed to be married now. You know, I hope he wasn't taking advantage of another woman.
And that's what I was thinking. If it is his wife, so what? Just say that it's you and your wife. I'm gonna celebrate that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna. You're the man. You're still doing all of this stuff at whatever, and you know, on trains. Okay, I want to be that lucky.
yeah, right. I have enough money to buy my own cabin on a train or my own part of a train to have sexual relations with my wife. Yes, that's okay. You're with your wife, and use your money to buy the privacy. Sure, whatever. You know,
Exactly.
I hope that was his wife. If that was him, I hope that was his wife. You know, not some other
Look at the little
poor
strands
lady
of
or
hair, the
poor
little blonde.
fan that he
Just look at the two
another
little
poor fan
strands
that
of hair
he
sticking out.
just
It's
run
him.
into. Yeah.
It's him.
he looks like a yarmulke was cut out the top of his dome.
Yep.
Yep.
And all you have to do is look up any picture of Ric Flair from the back. That's him.
That's crazy.
Now everybody says that picture was edited. What do you think about that, John?
I've not seen the picture, so I can't judge
Well,
without looking at it, to be quite fair. Right.
I
So,
mean, could be a pretty good stunt double. You never know.
it could, but the timing is just
yeah,
really
well, all you need is a leather couch, really. You know what I mean? Shine it up really good. That's all you need. There's your Ric Flair. Stick a wig on him. Blah.
Yep,
Woo.
yep, yep. And he does always
Yeah.
say,
Woo.
riding,
Jesus.
plane riding, limo, something, train, something.
Van riding, limousine driving, train, something, wheel stealing son of a gun or something like that.
He says it. I mean, he says it himself. It's him.
Yeah. I used to love that when he I love to see him get like his face red because he was getting excited and when he did his promos, nobody can touch him and that went to his head.
That's the
I
thing.
think
Nobody can touch him, but he's allowed to touch other people. That's the problem we're
exactly.
having here.
All that power went to that.
Exactly. It's
What?
all a power trip. It's all domination. It's all I'm better than you.
Mm-hmm.
You can technically touch the untouchables. They might not like it so much, but it's doable.
But then here in America,
You should
when
give
he
it a go,
touches the
Joseph, and find out.
untouchables,
What was that, Sharonica?
I said, but
I
here in America, when he touches the untouchables, all he's got to do is pay them off.
mm-hmm.
Exactly. That's one thing I really don't get about America is why would you give these people the opportunity and they then use it as an excuse? Well, they took a payoff, so they must have been lying. Well,
Yep.
no, if somebody's just accused you of sexual assault, doesn't matter how much money you've got. If you're innocent, you're going to fight for your name. You're not going to have some random person blacken your name and then just pay them off. Give them money here. Yes, you can blacken my name here. Have as much money as you want. No, sorry, it doesn't make any sense that to me.
Me neither.
Nope.
Right, are we okay with Flair? Is that it for Flair now?
Yeah.
The Flair has been put out.
Hopefully for good.
Permanent.
Right. So Dan, you're gonna talk us through Tommy Dreamer.
Yes, Tommy Dreamer, the innovator of violence, the king of extreme. I'm a big fan of Tommy Dreamer. Anybody, if you've been listening to Let's Talk Wrestling podcast, I've mentioned I'm a big Tommy Dreamer fan because of his connection with Raven, who I'll get into another time too. Big Raven fan also, but Tommy Dreamer and Tommy Dreamer and Raven, I followed them very closely. Sorry, my phone just kind of fell here. Here we go. Okay, so Tommy Dreamer, he worked in ECW, then he went to WWE, then he went to TNA Impact for a little bit. Now I think he's still in Impact. Actually, he was in Impact last. After this aired, he was actually not fired. He was just suspended indefinitely, which means he could get fired, or they're probably just going to bring him back after this blows over. But I hope not. I hope he's just gets the same kind of Ric Flair treatment, getting called out for his statements. Whether you have to know. I mean, come on, he's been on TV for all his life, pretty much. He knows what to say and what not to say, how to act and not how not to act in front of the camera. So he went and he made a statement on the Dark Side of the Ring Plane Ride from Hell episode. And on there, I'm kind of misquoting, very loosely quoting here. And he said something around the lines of kind of blaming her, but not blaming her, saying, she waited this long to come out, even though she took a settlement. So she probably couldn't even really talk about it until a certain amount of time lapsed or whatever. This is probably the time now, which is why she's talking about it now. But either way, she could have came out at any time and still said, hey, this is what's happened to me. This is what's going on. And it's not right. It impacted her career. It impacted her life, her family, her children, everything about her life changed after that day. Whether she was right or not to come out now or come out later, that was not Tommy Dreamer's place to say. So I will stop him there. And that is the worst statement that he can make, is sit there and make a judgment over a victim without knowing whether the victim's telling the truth or not. I mean, he has his perspectives. Sorry about that. He has his perspectives, and I respect that. But you cannot sit there and say and judge somebody when you're not the one that experienced it. I can't sit there and say she wasn't traumatized, because even if she was touched or not touched, I can't say whether she was traumatized or not, because I wasn't there. I'm not in her shoes. I don't live her life. Everybody has different backgrounds, different cultures, different opinions. And we have to respect that, but at the same time, you can't go and just say somebody who's making these kinds of claims, like, you waited too long to make these claims, so oh well. That's not acceptable. So I definitely have a big problem with that. He lost me as a fan permanently. I'm sure he's lost other people as a fan too. I do know he sent out a tweet apologizing for his statements, but I don't buy it. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. You know what you said, you know what you did. You pretty much swept it under the rug because she took too long to come out with this story. No, you're wrong, Tommy Dreamer. I'm sorry, you're wrong, Tommy Dreamer.
And to add to that, like, he kind of laughed it off. Like, they'll cancel me because I have two ponytails.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's comparing sexual assault to his offensive, stupid double ponytail. That's not the way to think about rape, you know what I mean, or sexual assault. So Tommy Dreamer, in my opinion, needs to cut off his ponytail, brush it up real nice and smooth, turn that some bitch sideways, and shove it right up his candy ass. Sorry,
I think John likes.
I mean, I love The Rock. You know what I mean? I'm kind of hoping he's not a piece of shit like the rest of them. You know what I mean? I hope nothing ever comes out like that about him.
I think old Dwayne Johnson, after he helped out with Moana and all that good stuff, I think he's solid among the people.
Yeah, he helped out Paige as well, didn't he? It was him that brought Paige to the WWE. Mm-hmm. So, he seems like a nice fella. He's not a creepy walking leather couch. You know what I mean? So
he's not as bad on the scale as Ric Flair, but he's still on the scale.
I'm pretty sure he's had a few parties with The Undertaker and all them lot. You know what I mean? Why not? Who wouldn't have a party with them? But yeah, I'm hoping he's not one of those ones that are bloody drugging people and everything else,
Oh no, and I know 99% of the ECW roster will is gonna get decimated if stuff comes out. They're all going down, all of them, because New Jack, Sandman, all of them are psycho and crazy.
New Jack should have been
But
arrested so many times. It's unbelievable. He got away with stabbing somebody, bloody tasing somebody, and throwing them off the scaffolding to kill them. He's done all sorts of crazy shit, and he's still, well, he did used to get away with it. He's dead now, unfortunately, isn't he? You know what I mean? So, but it'll be surprising to see what else comes out about New Jack, because he seemed to be the craziest out of the bloody lot of them.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So I won't be surprised. We'll get more information about more people doing more things. The plane ride from hell was probably just the floodgates of all of this coming out. We're gonna probably lose a lot more heroes like Ric Flair. We're losing Ric Flair. We're losing Tommy Dreamer. We're gonna lose a lot more. I know it's coming. The WWE tries their best to control things, but there's only so much you can do. For example, actually, very recently, I can point to a very recent example of the WWE failing at something like this around sexual assault and their talent. Velveteen Dream. I don't think he admitted it, but kind of did, kind of didn't. But there were texts. The texts are out there. The information is out there that he was texting young boys inappropriate things and trying to get their number, knowing that they're in high school, telling them, I'm going to give you a break in NXT, whatever, I could train you, but he wasn't doing it for the wrestling. He was
He
doing it
even
for other
sent
reasons.
pictures of himself exposed to those young boys.
Mm-hmm. And how long did it take for the WWE to sit there and address any of that? It took them a very long time. It wasn't until there was probably about three witnesses, or not witnesses, but three victims, I think, came out against Velveteen Dream. And it wasn't until there was three of them that they took action. Wrong.
And
Nope.
then
Not how
you
you do
know
it.
that they wanted to blame that on the whole Me Too movement or whatever. Isn't that what it's called, the Me Too
Mhm.
movement? Because of that people made this up. But then there was three victims, and there was texts that were shown, and three victims speaking up about Dream. You know.
Yep. And
Uh,
even then, he was still in NXT in the title picture. They were still doing
Mm-hmm.
interviews with him. They were promoting him. Everything. No, it's disgusting. It's wrong. I'm sorry. It's wrong. If you get one allegation, he needs to be pulled from the television and pulled from interviews, and until your legal people can handle whatever he's got going on legally. They didn't do any of that, and they will not do any of that. I mean, maybe now after this plane ride from hell, the fallout from this might actually help the WWE become a better company, but all I can do is hope, All we can do is hope and call them out. It's wrong. It's wrong. They should have fired Velveteen Dream the moment they knew. They had the evidence. It was there. I saw it. Other people saw it. It was on Twitter. It was everywhere. Everybody saw the evidence against the Velveteen Dream. And it took them a long, long time to fire him finally. Why? But
Because it's Vince McMahon.
because it's Vince McMahon, yeah. I mean, ultimately, we know it comes down to VKM, right? Who still hasn't said anything about this plane ride from hell, by the way. And he
He
certainly
won't do. He just likes to sweep everything under the carpet. And, if poor JR still worked for him, he'd be sending him out there to bloody deal with the press and everything else.
But
and
now it seems like
he's still
Vince
dealing with
McMahon
it.
is sending Jonathan Coachman to do all that. Because if
he is.
y'all seen his Twitter,
Yeah,
he
the
was like
coachman's
stuck at,
always been stuck up Vince's arse, though, isn't he?
yeah, but he was like stuck at the airport, and he said, "Okay, I'll do a question and answer on Twitter," while he was stuck at the airport about the dark side of the ring, and he swears up and down Vince was not on that plane.
Well, let's see. Well, you've got Terry Reynolds, who said that he
Mhm.
was there. You've also got Mike Kyoto.
Yoda.
At the end of the program also says, I can't believe things got out of control with Vince on the flight. So Vince was on the flight. Jim Cornette.
JR said he was there.
JR said he was there. Also, Jim Cornette was doing a podcast, and he did a podcast with the Dark Side of the Ring producer. And even the producer said, this is the most common question I've been asked. So I went back and I looked at all the interviews, and every single one of them referred to Vince being on the flight. So who's lying? Is everybody lying, or is this one person lying?
Like I
Just
said,
drink.
Vince paid Coach and told Coach what to go out there and say. I think.
Definitely, yeah.
It's always been that way with Jonathan Coachman. Now, I have an issue with Jonathan Coachman because Jonathan Coachman is he's a minority and he knows that he's a minority, right? Because that's not a secret. And I know that he's been treated badly in the WWE. Oh, if not only because of his skin color. I'm sorry, it's true. He's been treated terribly. If you go back and look at the storylines that he's been put in some really the shittiest storylines you could be put in, and the man still defends WWE.
Yeah, I think
Your
he will
pocket,
until his dying
your
breath.
pocket
He's going to
never
But the
have.
thing
defend
is,
it.
a beaten dog will always be loyal to its owner.
Mm,
Yep.
that's true. Unfortunately, that's true. That's true. And I think it's going to be interesting when Vince McMahon passes away. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a very interesting time. What stories are going to come out? Who's going to be taking over? Is it going to
Yeah,
be
I was about to say, who does it go
Does
to when he dies? Does it go to Shane? Does it go to
it go to
Stephanie?
Shane? Exactly.
No,
And
it goes to Linda.
Oh, Linda, yeah. Well, say if
Linda's
Linda died as well, say
okay.
if both of them died, who do you think it would go to? Which just split it in half, have half one Raw, one only Raw, one only SmackDown.
I think Shane McMahon will take it off.
Again,
I don't think
I
Shane
think
will
Shane
take
will
it.
match.
I
You
don't
don't think
think
so?
no. I don't think Shane will take it. Mm-mm. I think Shane sticks around because of family, but he doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the paycheck. He doesn't need the fame. He sticks around because of the family, and he comes by every few years or whatever. But he will never take it up. I think if Shane McMahon wanted to have a wrestling company, he would have one now.
And here's another thing. They want to, and like Triple H had the surgery and he had a heart issue. They said quickly that it was genetic, but what if it's all this crap on WWE has taken a toll on him, you know?
That's the first thing I thought about when I heard about Triple H getting a heart attack. It happened around the same time that NXT was changing. So he
Mhm.
lost control of NXT and now he's got a heart attack. Yeah, I think Vince caused it.
And that's not even Vince's son. That's Vince's son-in-law, and he's letting all the crap come, and hurt his family because
Mm.
that's his family by marriage, but they've been married a long time and they have children together. So therefore, Vince is letting the pressure of WWE hurt his son-in-law, which is hurting his daughter, which is hurting his grandchildren. And
Mm.
Vince doesn't care.
well, there you go. Stunned silence with that one.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
and that's the
I
bottom
was,
line because Stone Cold said so. I mean,
With Vince McMahon, I don't know because like I say, in Britain we didn't really get to see much, but you hear some of the wrestlers talk about him, and they love him, and they big him up and how great he is and helpful and everything else. He's like a family member, and they treat me like a family member and everything else. And then you hear other stories about him being a complete twat. And so, who is the real Vince McMahon? Is it the Vince McMahon that you actually see? Well, the performing Vince McMahon, or
I think Vince McMahon is the real, just like you said, a twat, a shithead. I mean, he just has the money, he has the name. His dad gave him the company. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So therefore, he carried on with the company because of his dad and the family name or whatever. But he's a big shithead. I don't. I,
but then you see somebody like Daniel Bryan or Brian Danielson, right? So he did an interview recently and he talked about Vince McMahon and he was praising Vince McMahon. Essentially, Vince McMahon is a great guy. He's a smart businessman. I had a great time there. I love them. We're a family. I just wanted something new. So then we hear all this stuff about Vince, and then you have Brian Danielson, at the top of his game, on fire in AEW, just left there, and he's like singing the praises, singing their
I,
praises.
I honestly think that Brian Danielson did that because of this dark side of the ring stuff too. He was one of Vince's top guys, and I get that. But I think he pumped more into it and like loving Vince and great relationship with Vince because of all this that happened. He was trying to help Vince a little maybe. And I want to point out one thing. Have you ever heard anything bad in the 2+ years? We're going on almost 2 years of Dynamite. Have you heard anything bad about Tony Khan? They say his talent can come and talk to him at any point in time, even the lower talent. It doesn't have to just be the Bucks and Cody and Kenny. Will Hobbs can approach him and talk to him whenever he wants to. You know, he makes himself available to all. And I just hope we never have to deal with any of that kind of drama about Tony Khan.
I hope so too. I hope so too. I'm hoping that we'll never have to have a plane ride from hell AEW edition.
Yes, please.
Right.
Probably not.
Also, AEW's fixing to do their first international. They're coming over to London and Britain or wherever and do that. So let's hope nothing comes of those plane rides over and back.
I think me and Daniel were talking recently, the past day or two, about the Fabulous Moolah and Mae Young, and how just years ago when I was a kid watching it, they were so very apparent to do that in the ring. There's no telling what would have happened, in the years past and the countless years after, and until they passed. There's no telling how long it's been going on and how deep rooted it really is. But that's all I had to.
Yeah,
But
I
see,
mean
that's
that,
the thing too. They wait on these legends to pass, and then they want to bring out these stories, and then they can't necessarily either defend themselves, you know what I mean, or make a statement about it. That's what bugs me the most. Like, why wait until they pass and let something come out? So, I mean, I know Ric Flair's up there in his age, and I'm glad this came out now and make him face the music, you know?
Oh, definitely. There's so many celebrities out there that have done so much crap and actually got away with it because they've never had to face questions or answers. They've got to give answers. It's like Michael Jackson. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? With I can't remember. Oh yeah, Neverland, Leaving Neverland. All that came out after he died. Unfortunately, it should have come out before then, so he could actually face the music. The fact that they brought it out after, well, they can't do anything about it.
I mean, unfortunately, we're in the age now where it's almost like a documentary has to be made on something for there really to be any justice. And I think of R. Kelly, like the whole R. Kelly trial, and nothing. He would still be free if it was never for that documentary being released. And he would be free, and he would still be doing it if it wasn't for that documentary. So it's unfortunate that we live in a time that it takes documentaries for things to get done, but at least we have it now that we didn't have 10, 20, 30 years ago.
And I will say the whole thing with Kobe Bryant, remember that, guys?
Mm-hmm.
He admitted it. They must have, I mean, I don't know how that, he didn't go to jail and do any jail time. He paid him off, obviously, too, but he admitted his transgression and apologized, and we carried on. And Kobe got to die. We didn't I mean, it was unexpected with the helicopter crash or whatever, but his name hasn't been smeared. You know, we know that happened. He admitted that happened. He had many, many press conferences about it. He talked about it. He apologized. So when he passed, his name hasn't been smeared.
Yeah, I think it's a big difference when you actually confess it and deal with it. Like, you gain so much more respect. You gain even just the freedom of your own self. I can imagine, I don't know what it's like, but if I were in that position or in the shoes of having to be an abuser, I would want to just come clean with it so that I can know in my mind I did what's right. Yeah, I made a mistake, but let me fix that mistake now. It's not just about the mistakes. It's not just about telling the stories and gossiping. It's about doing the right thing.
And you have a clear conscience, you know?
Mm-hmm. What is your legacy? What is the legacy that you're going to leave? And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people think about what kind of legacy am I going to leave. Um, and they just don't. But I think it's a good idea, especially if you are going to be a superstar, a wrestler, a superstar. You want to be a musician. think about how people are gonna perceive you long term. You know, what kind of music am I putting out? What message am I saying? What difference am I making? You could just walk on this earth and just be whatever, a machine, and walk on the earth. But I don't want to be that way, and I don't think anybody else wants to be that way either. But we have to get there. We have to force ourselves almost. We have to work. Character takes work, you know.
And
And
again,
if Ric
with
Flair
the whole
worked out and apologized, I think his career could still be saved. But the longer every day that passes, the longer he waits to really address this and just say, you know, I'm human, I messed up, I'm sorry, let's fix this, let's move on. What can I do? Until he gets to that point, his career is not gonna is done.
and the whole thing with Kobe, all
So
that happened in the middle of his championship, and his wife found out about it, and he told his wife, and his wife Vanessa pushed him to do the right thing. You know, so why isn't Charlotte and Reed is his son that passed away, so he has a son still named David, I think.
Dave,
Why are they not pushing him to do the right thing? You know?
I think it's also about time that people started pushing Van Damme to do the right thing and start bloody giving out names. I don't think that should
Yeah.
be forgotten.
mm-hmm.
No
Yeah,
matter
Van
how long ago it was, rape is rape.
mm-hmm. And it's not just Van Damme, it's also Tommy Dreamer. Everybody in the documentary needs to continue.
They all need to start answering some bloody questions. Stop thinking about their own arses and whether they'll get contracts here, there, and everywhere. Sorry, your contracts mean shit. These victims are the ones that are important.
Yes, they have feelings. That contract doesn't have feelings. You know, that contract's not a person that you're violating. The people are being violated and being hurt and being, you know, and like she said, um, it's a whole struggle within herself to even talk about it, you know, which I get that as a victim. I'm sure it's hard, you know, to, and especially, and I could see, I feel for the lady because of the fact that this happened and it was Ric Flair. And Ric Flair's way up here, right? And she's way down here. She's just a flight attendant. So if I say this about Ric Flair, you know, nobody's going to believe me in herself, you know, thinking that nobody's going to believe me. Nobody's going to want to listen to me because everybody already has Ric Flair up here on this high pedestal. I'm just a lonely flight attendant that works for SportJet and flies these um and pours drink and cleans up syringes and food and vomit and stuff when they show their asses on a plane, you know? That's not fair.
It's not at all. It's absolutely disgusting how these so-called superstars have been treating people. It's absolutely disgusting. So yeah, I really hope that things have changed in the wrestling world. I can't, like I say, I've not heard anything bad about AEW or any of the wrestlers there. So hopefully it's all cleaned up and it's just seems to be WWF, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
hope
Get the F out.
if
Get the F
Yeah,
out.
get the F out. See, I'm so used to calling it WWF. That's when I used to watch it. So to get the F out, it was hard.
yeah. And I hope
So
that
you
if
you literally
like
got the F out.
yeah, like if the WWE keeps releasing these people and Tony's picking them up, I hope they don't bring their baggage to AEW. You know?
Exactly. If Ric Flair had gone to AEW and this episode of The Dark Side hadn't come out and didn't come out till I don't know a year or something, while Ric Flair was in the AEW, that would automatically give AEW a bad name, which is unfair because they've got feck all to do with it.
I think Tony Khan will be from now on. I mean, Daniel Bryan, he seems like a straight up guy, and Adam Cole, I mean, which we know he's with Britt Baker, and he's young, so maybe he hasn't had a chance to have that baggage, you know.
Right.
But if they keep releasing these people and everybody's jumping ship from WWE to AEW, I just hope and pray that Tony Khan is very, very careful with it. You know, looks into backgrounds and looks into stories, whether it's a story on the internet he reads. I just hope he does his research. Don't put the black cloud over AEW because it's built itself up, you know.
And they're already trying to deal with like Max Casters, the Sammy Guevara's, the young
Well,
knuckleheads. They're
Sammy
already trying to deal with
apologized
that. So
immediately for his comment, and he went through some kind of counseling, and Tony made him do that. He took him off TV
that's it.
immediately, and Max Caster, he took him off TV immediately, and I don't know what if he went to classes or therapies or anything, but I know Sammy did, and Sammy's been very vocal about it. He apologized immediately, because he just made some kind of comment, and the whole Sasha Banks thing, right? Isn't that what it was with Sammy? He
Yep.
said something about Sasha Banks, so he apologized immediately. Said he never meant to hurt nobody's feelings or anything like that. Tony took him off TV and made him do this counseling. And Max Caster, that's a whole different subject. He just that boy.
Yeah,
I
but
love the acclaim,
AEW
but
should be worrying about that kind of stuff. They shouldn't be worrying about plane rides from hell and stuff like
yeah.
that. They should be worrying about their current talent, the young knuckleheads who make mistakes. Whatever. They're gonna make mistakes. It happens. They're gonna make mistakes.
They're
Everybody makes mistakes.
young.
Mm-hmm.
They have to
And
live and learn,
they're
and
they're
I'm
they're
hoping
thrust
that
into Hollywood at like immediately. Like one day you're not known, the next day everybody knows who Max Caster is. Like that's
mhm.
that's a big lifestyle change, and nobody's ever prepared for that kind of thrust into superstardom.
You're
I
gonna
just
give us
wish we
some
knew for
jokes.
sure if Vince was on that plane.
And all he has to
Sorry.
do is get on Twitter, 700 characters or less. Yes, I was there. No, I wasn't there, and that's it.
Yep.
See, all the
Because
evidence points to him being there, so I 99% sure that he was there, but he has to confirm it himself to make it 100%.
Exactly.
It's more about theatrics. It is like these days. So like, I always wonder if people get into the wrestling industry nowadays just to give themselves an excuse to feel on each other. But I mean, uniforms look nice, but for a certain weight, big boys up in that industry. You gotta Andre the Giant, the Big Show, putting big boys in unitards like that. I mean, it's just a thing, I guess. I don't know.
It's
Needs
an
style.
American thing.
Maybe. I think they
we
got it from the
we stick
French.
them in swimming trunks here.
I think they got it from the French. I don't know. It's
I think the most famous wrestler we've had is Daddy Haystacks, and he was what, in the 1940s or something. That's how crap we are with the wrestling.
I will give you
I
one
know,
thing, y'all appreciate rugby. That's a tough ass sport. I don't.
Yeah, I'm Welsh, yeah, but unfortunately, no, I'm not into rugby whatsoever. But I have noticed it's very much like an American football, but American football seems to be the pussy version of rugby. You know what I mean? Where you've got helmets on and you've got padding, and
Uh-oh.
you watch rugby players, none of them have got any padding. They're ready to smack you into the fucking ground.
John, John,
and
John, I
stomp
suggest
you. Yes.
go into hiding for about 2 weeks, because anybody that hears this will be coming after you. So,
So, do you know, if you don't believe me, right, you watch your American football and you watch your rugby and you see who's the hardest. You don't see us wearing cups and pads and helmets. No, they just knock each other out here. Just ram into you, smack your teeth out of your mouth.
That sounds accurate. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't have any other
I'm
gestures.
going to cut out that silence, so it doesn't seem like that joke went.
I know it's kind of weird sometimes trying to transition.
My brain lagged for like 3 seconds. I don't know what
So
happened.
I'll cut all that out so it looks like it was a nice seamless joke, and I'll add some laughing in there.
Oh, I do have one more thing. One more massive thing. There's somebody being promoted on WWE Raw who was mentioned on that plane flight from hell, who should also get some repercussions, and that's Brock Lesnar, because
Yes, most definitely.
shows his junk everywhere to these women. No,
Yeah,
it's not.
Terry Reynolds
I'm
already
sorry.
admitted to that he did it to her. So
Yeah, yes. And
instead of
many
people
other
telling her
women,
not to sell it, they should have been gone. Well, you should go and report that.
and it's not just Terry. I mean, many other women, and God rest her soul, people like Ashley Massaro, I think, has said, like a lot of these other women who have gotten into drugs and stuff, and just had their careers took a a nosedive right after they left WWE because they were sexually assaulted, they were around drugs. I'm trying to think of somebody else. I think Melina actually left for a long time. Melina used to wrestle in WWE, and she left for a long time for that reason because she was always experiencing sexual harassment and stuff like that. There was somebody with
And then
Brock. I don't remember. Was it was it Maria? I don't think it was Maria. It was somebody. Somebody had something with Brock Lesnar big time, and it wasn't good. Like it was bad. You know, the
yeah,
person.
and then that referee just come out saying that he was bullied. You know, he quit WWE because he was bullied.
Mhm.
That's a ref. I mean, not fair.
And he wrestled them he worked with the WWE for many years. So it's like to have somebody that's been with you on your payroll and dedicated and loyal to your company, but yet you just let them go because they can't handle the bullying and you, Vince McMahon, don't want to deal with it. So
Yeah, he couldn't stop the bullying. He just let the ref go. You know. Oh, everybody's to Vince McMahon. I think in his head he thinks everybody's replaceable. Nobody's irreplaceable except for Brock Lesnar, The Rock, and John Cena. Other than that, everybody else can be replaced. Because look what he did to JR, you know, just because of his what do they call it? The balls. What is the
Wasn't it? He was slurring when they were doing some sort of show, but apparently he was having a go at the sponsors as well. So
yeah.
I don't know the full details about that, but yeah, they sacked him for that. But considering everything that JR has done for Vince McMahon, you'd have thought you'd give him a pass on it. Yeah, don't worry about it. You know, we know you're slurring because of your cerebral palsy. You might be a bit gobby about the sponsors, like, so we'll give you a bit of a slap on the wrist. But to sack him was just an absolute piss take after everything he's done for Vince McMahon.
But all in all, I'm glad that he did because look where JR is now. And JR sounds happy and he messes up. He even signed off of Dynamite one time and said, "Thank you for joining WWE Dynamite."
oh,
They played that on TV. He signed off the show saying, "See you next week on WWE Dynamite." He didn't get fired.
He'd
Tony
spent,
Khan
what,
went,
20,
okay.
30 years saying WWE, so I'm not surprised he actually said it, you know. It's like calling
Exactly.
your teacher mum. You
mhm.
just, you know, you spend all day, you know, say calling your mum, and then you go to school. Mum, it's your teacher.
And here's something else, right? Here's a pop quiz. Name one person from the WWF, WWE who's actually gotten a retirement.
How do you mean got a retirement?
Like got a retirement, either an announcer or a referee or somebody that's known to have been worked for WWE for many, many years and that's actually gotten a real like retirement.
Shawn Michaels.
He doesn't count. He's not retired.
What
He's
about
still
the Undertaker?
Yeah, the Undertaker.
The Undertaker.
Oh, this one
Yeah.
backfired on you a bit, Dan, didn't it?
I don't know if you can count the Undertaker because I don't know if he's officially done. They
But
say
Shawn
He
Michaels,
but then
is.
they bring him
There's
back
no
through.
way. There's no way he's going to come back and wrestle.
Kane.
He's in a hell of a mess.
When Kane
Shawn
retired.
Michaels still works in NXT though.
Maybe.
Who does? Sorry.
I said Shawn Michaels still works in NXT.
Oh yeah, so he's not
Is
retired.
he?
He's still
All right.
there.
So what's he? Is he wrestling there, or is he announcer or something?
He's just getting.
No,
he's
he's like training, helping with the new talent and training.
Mhm.
Cool. Keeps
So
him
that's
busy.
not really retired. You're still getting a paycheck from the company.
Yep.
A full paycheck from the
So
company.
who do you
Yeah,
think got a
nobody
full
retired.
retirement?
Jim Ross, Mike Chioda. Look, you can name any of these big time referees who've been around forever. Who?
What about
Veronica.
yeah, I'll say Stone Cold. He's got his podcast though, hasn't he? For the WWE Network.
Yeah, he does. So I guess maybe Stone Cold. I guess I could be wrong. Maybe Stone Cold is probably the only person.
Mick Foley, you know what I mean? As much as I love him, there's no way he's coming back to do anything that he used to do. His knees are knackered and everything. So I think he's pretty much retired. And I think he's actually worried about because I think I skimmed past one of his posts and he was talking about how the WWE are now in trouble because of AEW. If WWE do not change their ways, then they're going to be taken over.
But then to hear Vince McMahon say it, the AEW is no competition. That's bullshit.
Yeah, but that's what he said about WCW, and look what happened there. You know, I know it ended, Vince bloody buying them, but there was a good period there where WCW kicked their ass in the Monday Night Wars.
And AEW is getting there because look what they just did Wednesday. The Grand Slam event, 20,000 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've not seen it yet. I do intend to watch it though.
Hey, you missed a good show. Come on, you got to watch
Yeah,
that.
but I'm in Wales. You know what I mean? I've got to wait till 4 a.m. to watch these things, and if they go on for 2-3 hours, I just can't do it. So yeah,
Oh, well, I think that was one of the best, not the best AEW's put on, but one of the top 5 that AEW has put on. It from start to finish, banging, banging, banging. And then we get Rampage tonight. So
see, I might watch Rampage tonight. It depends. I've got to edit all this first, so hopefully try and get it out.
I had to stay off of Twitter to keep from seeing the spoilers because all the people did try to still spoil it.
Yeah, they didn't listen to you when you said, don't spoil it.
Yeah. So I just quit. I ain't even wanting to hit that little Twitter button and open it because I want to see it tonight. Like I said, it's another Grand Slam, 20,000 people. I want to enjoy it at 10 o'clock when it comes on tonight.
But I've had an excellent time. It's been a lot of fun, especially with both of y'all, Daniel and Sharonica. John, it's just another day in the office. We
Yeah. At least we don't have to do the flat Earth ones anymore. I'm done with them. I can't be doing with flat Earthers.
By the way, if you want in on the episode with me and Brad, it's next Wednesday.
Right.
So we'll get together.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll come in on as a guest or a producer, but either way, I'll be there either in spirit or visual.
I think both. That's
Well,
that's
yeah,
cool with me.
Just send me a reminder of the time and the date,
Yeah,
and I'll make sure
I'll
I
look back.
check it in.
We'll hook it up.
Right, so
Daniel.
before everybody goes, I just want to know your personal feelings about everything that's been spoken about tonight.
Daniel, you go first.
Is he there?
Oh, Daniel's froze.
The
Did we lose Daniel?
Yeah, he froze.
Oh yeah, he's just messaged saying his phone died.
Oh,
So
the host with the most.
It's typical, isn't it?
The professor is checked out.
Yeah, he forgot to charge his phone, so it wasn't as shocking as he thought it was. That's all I had on him. His phone dying. Anyways, Sharonica.
Personal thoughts on the dark side of the ring. I agree with John. They're all shitheads, and I hope that they are brought to justice some way, somehow, because no woman deserves that. Speaking from a woman's point of view, I had a best friend that just went to trial because she was raped, and it happened early last year, and just got to trial, and they turned things around and they let the guy go.
Like I said,
So
it's only 5.7% that you get a conviction rate. So I do understand why people go to the civil court instead, because they've got more chance of getting justice.
yeah, well, her jury trial, she took the stand and everything, and still they let the guy go, and for us to have to sit there, that's my best friend, been my best friend since 6th grade. And I had to go with her to court to support. I didn't have to. I went with her to court to support, went both days. But to have to sit there and hear that jury stand up, the 4-person stand up and say, we find him not guilty, was just, we had to look across the room at him and he's over there smiling and like he got away with it,
Yeah.
And that was just very disheartening. Don't want me to put a whole lot of faith in the justice system,
Yeah, definitely. It's understandable why rape victims don't ever come forward.
Yep.
Right, what about you, Joseph? Oh, sorry. Go on, carry on.
I hope that something comes of this, I would hope that Vince would address this and not let his puppets address this. And I hope we never see Ric Flair in AEW or Rob Van Dam or Tommy Dreamer.
Definitely.
You know?
Completely agree with you there. What about you, Joseph? Any thoughts?
I just hope it all comes to light and they all decide to weed out the weak, as an old slogan goes. It's a shame that a few of the top legends have come out to light as being such dirtbags, but I mean, it got brought to light, so hopefully in the near steps to the future, they'll keep AEW clean and that'll shoot to the moon.
Yeah.
AEW needs to do more promos though at the beginning of these matches, because I used to love that when it came to the Attitude Era.
They're working on it. They're
getting there. I'm enjoying the matches. You know, the Lucho Brothers. Bloody hell! That cage match that they did, that they won the belts.
Meltzer,
that's the match that. Say that again. Sorry.
Like we said on our podcast, Meltzer gave it a 5.5. If it don't get match of the year, I'm gonna scream.
Definitely.
Because that was a.
Yeah, that match just spoiled. Just stole the whole show. You know what I mean? And it went on for quite a while, that episode, didn't it? So, but yeah, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I just want to clarify something. I'm Ray Phoenix is Rey Mysterio, isn't it?
No,
they're two different people, are they?
They're two different people.
Because they look at I tried, because I know they wear the masks and everything else. You try and look at their eyes, and I was trying to look in the chin line and everything. I'm pretty sure that's Rey Mysterio.
No. They're two different people.
Ray Phoenix is not Rey Mysterio, right?
No, he's not. Penta and Ray Phoenix are actually brothers in real life, really brothers.
Right. So why does he look so much like Rey Mysterio? Tell him he's copywriting.
But
I think he kind of does, except with the eyes. Like Rey Mysterio's eyes are really, really blue.
He's got the same kind of masks and the eyes, and he's got the sort of the girly lips. I don't want to take the piss out of him. Girly lips.
As far as it's been for me, anyways, I've got to run, but definitely enjoyed this episode. It's been excellent.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Joe.
Thank you.
And also, thank you very much, Sharonica.
Fat face dipshit. Yeah. Fat face dipshit. Yeah. Fat face dipshit. Yeah. Fat face dipshit. Yeah.